Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to At Lafayette Live here on Monday, August 11th, 2025. And thank you so very much for joining us here, as we're always thankful for you joining us every Monday here on At Lafayette Live, hosted on the Lafayette Real YouTube page. I'm Jeff Gooch with the Russell Company, powered by At Properties. And if you are looking for a home here in the Greater Lafayette area, if you're looking to buy or sell, if you're interested in the value of your home, I'd love to work with you. And that's why we talk about all the things that we talk about here every Monday on At Lafayette Live, is because we care about the area, care about where we live, and we do live here. So thank you so very, very much for joining us. I hope your week is off to a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic start. Feel like I didn't have very much of a weekend. It was really one of those, like, go, 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 go constantly sorts of weekends. But and Monday, I'm not a big believer in, like, oh my goodness, it's Monday, bleh, sort of thing. But if I did, today was a Monday. But that's okay. They don't happen to me very often at all. So I am perfectly fine with having the occasional Monday. It's really not that big of a deal. How's your week going? Drop in the chat where you're watching from. It's always really fun to see where people are watching from. If you're watching from here in the Greater Lafayette area, in Lafayette or West Lafayette, if you're here in Indiana, anywhere in the Midwest. But I know we got some regular people watching in California and Texas, Florida. In the middle of winter, I'm going to be saying, oh, I wish I was there. It's warmer than here. I'm really not sure that that's the case right now. It's hot and it's humid. We're about to have an air mass stall over us, and we're getting this much talked about infamous corn sweat here in Indiana now that everything has grown up. We're not quite to harvest yet, and we won't be to harvest for quite a while yet, because a lot of what we grow around here is called field corn, and it is either for one of two things. The maybe better of the two things is, it's feed for animals, but quite a lot of it goes into ethanol production, that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. We won't get too in depth on that. But while the corn is up and high, it really does dry out in the field quite a bit. So the last fields won't be coming down for a while. But anyway, enough about farming. So glad you're here. I believe I should tell you, like, strap in. This is one of those weeks where there is a whole lot to talk about. We do not, there are times, Greater Lafayette in some ways is a small city, but in many, many other ways can be a large town, both on the positives and negatives on both sides of that equation. But that does mean that sometimes it can be a little quieter around here. This week is not one of those weeks, and we got a lot to talk about. And now that we're all here, we're just going to go ahead and dive in. But before we dive in, like I said, I'm Jeff Gooch with the Russell Company. Thanks so much for watching, and hit the like and subscribe button. The stats show that a lot of you haven't yet, and it means a lot to us here if you would. First off, I should have started with welcome back to school. We're in the midst of welcome back to school season here in the Greater Lafayette area. See, I looked this up. I've got this on a calendar for something else. School is in or going back in. According to my calendar, last Wednesday, Lafayette and West Lafayette started. And tomorrow, in just a few hours from now, the other two largish school corporations, well, the one is giant, the other one is large-ish, go back to school. TSC, that's Tippecanoe School Corporation, and the Lafayette Catholic Schools go back tomorrow. So as of tomorrow, I would say the bulk, maybe 100% of classes are back in. There's a couple of private schools, charter schools, that might have slightly different operating schedules than the rest. But last week, Lafayette and West Lafayette went back, and this week it's Tippecanoe and Lafayette Catholic Schools. So happy back to school for everybody that is sending kids back to school and getting them out from under underfoot and driving you crazy during the summer. I hope everybody has a great school year. But as we kick off the school year, we start with a road closure on 2nd Street between South and Columbia is going to close starting this Wednesday, 2 days from now, as the John Purdue block continues to be a large construction site. And I think they're going to start using that for staging for concrete trucks and pump trucks and things like that. So it had closed a little bit earlier in the year, and it was a little bit of a difficulty finding ways to navigate around it. Believe it or not, that is a route that I drive at least weekly. But if you're going to hit 2nd Street between South and Columbia, starting on Wednesday, you're going to have to find another route until next August. So there you go. We start this week with some road construction news. Yay! If you'd like to learn more about road construction news and all the other fun stuff, hit the like and subscribe button. Don't miss a video that we put out here on the Lafayette Reel. Next up that we're going to talk about, told you there's a lot. I got to keep my notes straight. Purdue continues to expand housing options for students, and in some way the answer might actually be that they are not continuing but rather desperately trying to rectify the situation. They had such an explosion in student population the last couple of years, and their admissions process exceeded all expectations, that there just have not been enough student housing options on campus and off campus, quite frankly, and it had become a point of concern for the community as much as for the university. Well, this last week, Purdue showed off a new building, 3rd and West. It is a new housing project that was built by American Campus Communities, and it is not a Purdue-owned building. It is one of these, you might say, fancy new student-focused apartment buildings popping up all around campus. But Purdue has taken the master lease on it for, I should have noted this down. How many years? Do I have that number? 2 years. So they have the master lease for 2 years where they're going to lease all 401 apartments in the facility. There are it's 325,000 square feet, 5 stories. It will be able to fit 984 students. And being that this is not your typical dorm, this is a private sector apartment building. It has many things in it that you would not have found in your dorm room when we were in college by any means. It does have 1, 2, and 4 bedroom units that have common areas, full kitchens. They have bathrooms, private baths, washers and dryers. In the complex, you have hammocks, study spaces. That's kind of to be expected. There is a nice courtyard park area downstairs. They even have yoga rooms. Did I mention yoga rooms? So 151 apartment buildings across 81 cities that have colleges in them, owned by American Campus Community. And they also own here in West Lafayette, Chauncey Square, and Campus Edge. Campus Edge being one of the higher high-rises at 10 stories. That's obviously not a high-rise, but it is in West Lafayette. Meanwhile, Purdue is also continuing to work on a new residence hall. What's interesting about this 3rd and West is it's actually just north of Purdue West Shopping Center, in territory that normally you might have looked at as going, hey, this is where, a future Purdue building is going to go, but indeed not. That land was owned by the Research Foundation, and they opted to go private with it. So take that for what you will, but good news on the housing front that is opening up. If you've been in the area at all for the last couple of years, you know that there's just not nearly enough housing to go around for students. But speaking of which, if you're looking for housing here, if you'd like to buy a house or sell a house here in the Greater Lafayette, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out the form, and let's figure out how we can work together to make your housing dreams a reality. We're going to talk about transit news next. There's a lot to talk about, and I cannot claim to be an expert on all of this yet. But there are two things happening here. They're interrelated. City Bus, first off, for the next 2 weeks, is offering free fares. The exact dates launch on August goes until August 23rd. Starts today, August 11th through the 23rd. And the reason that City Bus is offering free rides, it's because they have redesigned their route network and their fare structure, in which they are calling their Easy Fare. And part of this reimagination, in addition to fares, is also routes. And we're going to go through some of those routes and talk about them a little bit. But like I said, I cannot claim to be an expert on all of this just yet. So stick with me. There's going to be there is an app that will help explain all of this to you. They are going to have fare capping, where once you have paid enough fares for the equivalent of a day pass and then a 31-day pass, additional rides will be free because you've essentially bought that pass, and you won't accrue over that total amount once you pass that. A whole host of things, tap to pay, seamless transfers, all that sort of stuff. But what I really, really wanted to talk about are the routes. They're all gonna vary a little bit in time and availability. That's the other part of this, that City Bus is, load balancing their fares, if you will. Not their fares, sorry. Their route structure and times, so they're not just wasting diesel or propane on buses that are not running with enough people on them to pay the bills. I'm trying to get this up in a digestible format. Stick with me for just 1 second here. All right, almost ready. Get back to we're going to look at the overviews. There is a detailed guide to the new City Bus route structure and fare structure and all of this. I suggest you download it, have a look at it. I told you it's a lot. It is a lot. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. Here we go. So we're going to look at I'm just going to read this. There are core routes. They provide frequent service along high-demand, high-density corridors and form the foundation of the network. And there will be local routes, and they'll offer coverage in areas with lower demand and density, and they'll operate on more limited schedules, connecting riders to the core routes. So this is the overall map. I'm finally ready to show you this. I'm sorry it's taken so long. Here we go. Here's the core map. So here is downtown Lafayette. Here is Purdue University and West Lafayette. And I'm not going to try to enumerate all of the routes. It would be impossible to do. But you can kind of generally see there's the east-west routes that cover State Street and through Lafayette and West Lafayette. Here are the northwestern routes that hit Walmart and up to the Research Park and up in that area. Here are the southern routes that go down to, is this Beck down here? Doesn't even get as far south as Veterans Memorial Parkway. It's an interesting point there. So that is the core route map. But we're going to go ahead and look at how they break down. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the entire route. These are the core routes. So you've got the Creasy Lane route, which starts downtown, heads up Greenbush, and comes down here towards the hospital and Menards. You've got the South Street route, and that's the main drag through 26 here and down south to Beck. You've got the Main Street route that goes diagonally here. Oh, this is the Brady Lane route. Sorry, the colors were mixing together. This is the Brady Lane route down here. The South Street route is up here. This is more of a navy. This is more of a dark blue. Out here, heading from downtown over to the west side, we have the McCormick Lane route that pops through the core of Purdue University through 26 and up and over to the Camping Golf Course and up to the Research Park. We've got the Salisbury line that kind of comes down Salisbury through the north side and Rossade and back out across the river up on Union Street. And then finally the Sagamore West, which is hanging out here. So those are the core routes, and we'll see how those all kind of connect together here in a second. And again, this is a lot. For some reason, my computer is insisting on showing this as a 2-up, and I really only need it as a 1-up. Here we go. These are the local routes. And we won't name all of those, but we will see that they do fill some of the holes. Here's one that hits the south side, Teal Road, on down to Veterans Memorial Parkway and over here towards Menards. Here's the one that hits the hospital routes over here, and then some core routes over on the west side and in the core of Lafayette. So those are the local routes that are a little more limited in time. I'm just going to show you these maps. They also have these maps in time bands. And again, I'm showing you these highlights. Go back and study this in detail for yourself. These routes generally run 6 a.m. I think that's supposed to be a p.m. 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So from the start of work through the end of work, basically. And then evening routes, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So you can still get around. Then down here at the bottom, overnight routes, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So similar, just an hour offset from these guys up here. And then finally the routes that run late night, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. late nights. And you can see you can get from downtown, down Main Street to the south side, or downtown across 26 up to Cherry Lane and up towards Walmart on the west side. Like I said, a lot to take in. The fares are going to be capped. This guide that they have published has all sorts of details about the routes, when and where they run. But the last feature we'll talk about, and then we'll move on. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this yet. This is so new. I know it's a lot to take in, and I'm not teaching it in the most smooth way possible. So thank you very much for bearing with me on this. They're going to have 5 transfer points. Some of them are fairly normal, fairly normal. We're used to them already. There's the downtown city bus center. There is the Walmart on the west side and the Walmart on the east side. But 1.5 newish transfer points. The Payless over on Beck Lane on the south side. And then finally the 5th one being Ivy Tech over on the southeast side of town. So that's where all these various routes will intersect. So there will be some routes that you'll hop on downtown, you'll head out to Walmart East, and then Walmart East you'll hop off a bus, take a transfer that's included in your fare, and then continue your route. A lot to take in. Go check it out. I'll link it below, but it's Reimagine City Bus. I told you it was a whole lot to take in, but I really, really wanted to talk about it because it's related to another transit issue that's happening here in Lafayette, in the Greater Lafayette area right now. And that is campus transit routes. As we went through that city bus story, you may have noticed that we didn't really talk a whole lot about the Purdue routes, and that's because they don't exist. And part of the genesis of this reimagined city bus, and I'm not saying that it is the only reason, city buses, has to be existential about its future just in general, but Purdue last spring decided to sever ties with City Bus for reasons, as they say. They could not come to an agreement on fares. Purdue felt City Bus wanted too much, and City Bus felt that Purdue wasn't willing to pay their share. So they had a little bit of a falling out. And Purdue is now going to handle its own campus loops and campus routes. They have contracted it out to a private company called SP Plus. And they're going to run their own routes. There are going to be 3 fixed routes and then on-demand service. The 3 routes, and we'll show them here in a second, but they're called the Rossade Loop, the Purdue Mall Loop, and the Discovery Park Loop. But there's also going to be on-demand service, and this is going to be through an app. And there's going to be designated pickup and drop-off locations Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 12 a.m., with some additional evening-only routes. And we'll kind of look at those stops as well. I'm going to bring this map up now. So this is the map. There are 3 routes. Discovery Park route. You can see it kind of handles, this is this grayish one down here towards the bottom. And we can see it comes down State Street, or Mitch Daniels Boulevard, as it's called through here, down Airport Road, and back across to Harrison Street, making this loop down to the new Amelia Earhart terminal. The second one is the Purdue Mall Loop, and you can see, again, it runs what I believe is the old Gold, similar to the old Gold route, where it does the outer loop of campus, if you will. Well, obviously not the outer loop, but the outer loop of the academic campus. Down Northwestern over here to State Street, going down Jishke, and then up to Stadium again. What's interesting is that there's not a route that cuts down University on the fixed route system. And then finally the Stadium Loop, and we can see run Stadium Avenue up Northwestern, around Wooden, and back around again. So you can see how these kind of overlap. So you can start on these routes. You could start here, loop around, hop off, transfer buses here, and then loop around, hop off somewhere down here, transfer buses, and loop around. It is possible. But they also have these on-demand routes, and that's what these little gold and black buses are. So the gold is on-demand, and then the black is evening only. And you can see they're interspersed around campus, some of them on the existent routes, some of them in the middle of campus. You know, I mentioned there isn't one running down University, but there is an on-demand stop there. So exactly how that's going to work, we'll see a lot more to report on that. But that's, students are coming back for Boiler Gold Rush next week. So freshmen will be here, as well as all their team leaders and TAs and all of that. And then the rest of the students are back there week after. But the one thing I did want to show, one more thing I wanted to show is they do have an on-demand stop here at the old State Farm building, what they now call the 2550 building. So you will be able to go there. I believe nursing has some classes out there, as well as there being some administrative offices out there. So Purdue Campus Transit, privatized, being run by a private company on behalf of the university. City Bus with their brand new routes. How those are all going to work together, or perhaps not work together, remains to be seen. We'll definitely know a lot more in the coming weeks, and certainly by the end of the semester we'll know, was this experiment a success or not? And if you want to remember to tune in and find out if it was a success, hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss a minute of all of the videos that we put out here on the Lafayette Reel and on at Lafayette Live every Monday. All right, how you guys doing? I got to clean up on my windows. I got so many windows open. I open one and I don't realize I've opened it already, so then I open another one. Moving on down the list, this one is one that's going to hit you in the pocketbooks. Sorry about this. Lafayette proposed water rates have come out, and they have suggested an increase in your monthly bill of up to 66.2%. This comes from a plan that was put on the table by the Lafayette City Council that would go into effect by 2027. And this is to help pay for a new well field, for new main lines, for some and lead service line replacement. They are publishing that monthly bills covering up to 5,000 gallons, which are currently at about $17.81. The example would go to $23.32 by next summer, and then on up to $29.61 in 2 years. So that's taking you from $17.81 to $29.61. That is a pretty significant increase. I mean, $30 is not a lot of money, but the difference between $17.81 and $29.61 is quite stark. The mayor who put this who was participating in putting this forward says that this is the first rate increase since 2018. This is that category of there's no such thing as a free lunch. You know, there ain't no such TANSTAFL, the old economic theory that we all learned in high school. TANSTAFL, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. They needed a $64 million capital improvement for the city's water plants. And I can see the reaction. I don't want to pay for that. Well, you know, we like having water, drinking water, potable water, healthy water coming out of our faucets. And the only way that we can do that is by paying for this infrastructure and these utilities. Talking about a new well field. They've been studying and drilling in a few different locations to identify where this might be. They need to extend, the city needs to extend water mains to service areas on the south side of the city, because we've kind of, what's going on there is development has kind of hit a roadblock as far as utility locations. So until the utilities catch up, we can't catch up with housing. And as I said at the beginning, I'm a realtor. And if there's anything that you've heard me say, it's that there's not enough housing here in the area. We need to build more housing. But to build more housing, we have to have main water supplies available to developers so that they can hook these houses up to them. And then the city has been working on a project to replace lead service lines across about 3,000 homes that started last year and will continue on through the oldest sections of town until they get that done. So money well invested, but definitely heads up on that if you are not expecting it. What do you guys think about that increase? I mean, I would go with, I don't love paying more, but I also understand. But in the chat or in the comments, if you're watching this later, drop a comment below and let me know what you think, because you know, having home here in the Lafayette area, this is where I'm from. This is where a lot of us are from. And like I said, I'm Jeff Gooch with the Russell Company, powered by App Properties, and I'd love to be your local Lafayette real estate resource of choice. If you're interested in home here in the Greater Lafayette area, go to LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out the form, and let's work together. This is one that we'll move through fairly quickly. We've talked about it a little bit. This giant new development on the southeast corner of River Road and State Street in West Lafayette, called the District, has been okayed by the West Lafayette City Council. So it went before area plan. They said yes. Went to West Lafayette City Council for their final stamp of approval. They said yes. So now they will work through the process of starting to get this thing built, working with streets and sanitation and environmental planning and all of that. But Trinitas is going to build their units. It's going to be 960 units with 1,800 beds. The one thing that they kind of did ask is, the city council kind of asked the developer, in their 16,000 square feet of commercial and retail space, if they could work to recruit a grocery store to go in some of that space. They were, of course, fairly non-committal because, they're going to go out and find businesses that want to be there. And certainly certainly they can ask, but if business wants to be there, a business wants to be there. You can't make a grocery store move in. But I understand the why of why you would ask that. Before we move on, are you subscribed? I bet you're not. Hit the like and subscribe button. Don't miss a minute of our videos here on the Lafayette Reel. This one's been controversial since the time it started. West Lafayette rolled out metered parking in many more locations over the summer, and one of them was in front of Wabash Landing, and there has been a huge outcry from the community about nobody wanting to shop there, and even employees not wanting to go in because now you have to pay for parking. And there are stores like Panera, there is a La Tea, there's a Great Clips. So if you just wanted to pop in to get your hair cut, you had to pay to park, which is like a city thing. I get that. But the city had implemented this to prevent people from parking for hours and days at a time, where people wanted to come to these businesses but they couldn't because they had parked there to go somewhere else. The law of unintended consequences was it made it harder for the patrons of those businesses. So the city has pulled back some of that paid parking. So the parking that is directly in front of Wabash Landing is back to free parking, but they, I think, will be stepping up, routine enforcement of parking times. It is still time limited. And there are still metered parking out on State Street there. When they redid the streetscapes there, there is actual on-street parking now that is still paid parking. So good news, bad news. Trying to do a good thing, had some unintended consequences, and now the city's trying to make amends and fix it. I think that's a pretty good thing. Next bit of Purdue news. But before we get to that next bit of Purdue news, if you're here at Purdue, if you're thinking about sending a student to Purdue, if you're working at Purdue, if you're aware that Purdue is here in the area and you just happen to live here, I'm joking, kind of, but you're interested in a home here in the Greater Lafayette area and you tune in and watch all of our content, the best thing that you could do is help us out. Let us help you with home here in the Greater Lafayette area. Go to thelafayettereal.com/YouTube and fill out the form. And let's work together. Let me work on your behalf as diligently as I work every week on this show and all of our content here on At Lafayette Live and the Lafayette Reel. Purdue news. No lack of Purdue news. The governor has reappointed 3 Purdue trustees and appointed a new student trustee. So if you've been following the news about higher education in Indiana at all, you'll know that there was a fairly big controversy about the governor not reappointing and trustees down there and putting in new trustees. It is the governor's prerogative that is enshrined in state law that the governor picks the boards of our public institutions here. But he chose to reappoint 3. They have reappointed Sonny Beck, Malcolm DeKreiger, and Sean Taylor to another 3-year term. Sonny has been a trustee for about 12 years, since 2013, and you know his name, Beck's Superior Hybrids. DeKruiger has been on the board since about 2016, about 9 years, and he is the co-owner of a milling company, Belstra Milling Company, and lives in DeMott. Taylor is the shortest term so far and has been on the board since 2022, so for about 3 years. And he's also a board member of Noodles & Co. He was a large franchisee for Taco Bell. And for a period of time, this might be interesting. This kind of interests me. I spent some time in Houston when I was young. He was a limited owner, limited partner of the Houston Astros Major League Baseball team for 7 years. And then, of course, the university gets a student trustee, and when that trustee graduates, it is time to nominate a new one. And our new one is Reagan Coster, a member of Kappa Alpha Theta. She has been part of Purdue University Rising Professionals. She's on the Student Organization Grant Allocation Board, and she's replacing Kevin Bowes, who served a 3-year term from 2023 to 2025. So, if you've been following politics in the state, and we don't dive too deep into politics when it doesn't directly affect development and real estate news here, and where do you draw that line? It's wherever I feel like drawing that line. But Mitch Daniels was the former president of Purdue University, and of course was the Republican governor for 8 years in Indiana before that, and definitely left his stamp on Purdue University. Part of that is, I believe, year 14 now of frozen tuition, definitely controlling costs. Think of that what you will. There's positive and negative to that, but the changes that Purdue put in place engendered the trust of the next governor, and he chose to reappoint those 3 trustees. So there you go, some Purdue news. And if you want to stay up to date on Purdue news and Greater Lafayette news, hit the like and subscribe button. Putting out content about this stuff all the time, and if you're not subscribed, you're missing it. So hit that button right now. I told you there's a lot to talk about. If you've been here since the beginning, yeah, I know, guys. I can't keep up with the chat and talk about all of these articles. We're making progress. Stick with me. Rainbow Trout Solar Project, Western Tippecanoe County. There has been a lot of controversy about this, about the rights of landowners to lease their land to these solar fields, solar companies, and the surrounding homeowners not wanting to be surrounded by fields of solar panels. The debate of farming crops versus farming sunlight and where you should do that. There is a lot of concern about that. But if you want to go to an open house, get a little more information, offer your opinion perhaps, this Wednesday, 2 days from now, if you're watching this live, this Wednesday, August 13th, at Convergence Center on the Purdue University campus over in Discovery Park, 101 Foundry Drive, from 4 to 7 p.m. And GeneX, the company that is the developer of this, said members of the team are going to have tables set up and they're going to speak about the project. So we'll see how that goes. But if you have an opinion for or against, you want to voice that opinion, you want to have the chance to interact with some folks from the developer, and this was your opportunity to do that. So don't miss it if this is important to you. And also don't miss hitting the like and subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our videos here on the Lafayette Wheel. Say it with me. Moving on, we touched a little bit on this a little while ago when we were talking about the new housing options coming online at Purdue University. But Purdue officials have said that they do not think that they're going to have record-breaking enrollment for another year.